first of all, I mean, tell me your reaction to today's results. You must be pleased.
Yes, we are indeed pleased. We believe they are a very strong set of results. And it's very important to recognize both the effort that both companies have been able to do on the revenue side, with very significant improvements, both in terms of volumes, in terms of number of passengers, and also in terms of unit revenues. And on the other side, also a very powerful and strong behavior on the cost side, where we have to deal with a very important, significant raise in fuel prices, but at the same time we've been able to offset this significant, I would say, negative impact through reduction in other costs. So as a whole, we think that they represent a very significant improvement over last year, and it brings IAG companies again to positive operating profit results for the second quarter.
So can you tell me a few more of the details of why you think you're doing so well? Is it your business travel, or perhaps the travel between London and North America? Are those the kind of things that are helping?
Sure. It has to do mainly with our leadership position in our main core strategic markets, which are behaving very strongly in general terms. So our London catching area is behaving very powerfully in terms of specifically premium traffics, and that strength of our premium traffics all along our long-haul network has enabled us to produce this very significant improvement in revenue terms as a whole for the two companies.
And how is the merger working? Are you pleased with the way it's gone? Because I think there was some surprise when the two companies went together, but how is it working? Is it going well?
It's working even better than expected. Of course, bringing together two companies with different cultures, with different management models represents a huge challenge. But we are finding that we have a lot of common views on the future, and all these synergies that we are implementing are working perfectly all right, and they are on track. We are even trying to improve the targets that we had set for them. So in principle, we are very satisfied with the way we've been launching, and now I would say implementing the life of this new group on its, I would say, first months of life.
Do you think these latest figures, are they better than you were expecting, and are you pleased to have perhaps, you know, beaten some of your other rivals, because Air France and
they are basically in line with what we expected. We have some positive performance, or even better than expected in some areas, in some markets, and of course there are some challenges that we are having to deal with. Fuel price is a huge challenge. Of course, it represents some, I would say, very significant challenge that we have to be able to offset with other measures. But at the same time, as we are a very strong financial group, it would also allow us to, I would say, to become one of the survivors if this, I would say, high fuel price environment remains for a long while.
I was going to ask about the fuel prices, because that's a big problem for everybody. How are you going to get around that? Are you going to be hedging at all, or what's your sort of strategy?
Yes, we have what it's called a dynamic hedging model, which allow us to keep on, I would say, hedging our positions through time. But of course, at the end of the day, IAG Group and the rest of the airlines are going to have to pay the market prices. And this, of course, is going to represent, if fuel prices remain as high as today, a challenge for everyone. We've been able to offset 100% of this fuel impact through both, I would say, revenue over performance and other cost reductions. So as a whole, we have been able to improve in a very significant way our results against the comparable last year quarter. This is going to be probably more challenging for the second half of the year, but we are counting overall to achieve a significant improvement for the whole year in operating results against last period.
I wanted to ask you a bit about, there have been some rumours that perhaps you were interested in buying Air Berlin or Air Portugal. Are any of those rumours true? Do you have any plans to expand?
Of course, we remain open to opportunities that may make sense for the group, that may complement our network and strengthen our position in our core strategic markets, but we are not being specifically active in any deal at all for the time being.
Is there any reason for that? Is it just because you're waiting for the market or the general economic situation to get better? Or?
Well, it has to do, of course, because I would say that the potential deals have not crystallized yet. So we cannot make an assessment on the potential opportunities that they may be representing for the group in the future. But we remain, I would say, open and vigilant.
What about other plans for the future? Where is the business going? Are you concentrating on long haul or the very competitive short haul market?
Sure, no, we are basically concentrating and strengthening our position, our leadership position in our main core long haul strategic markets. We are basically talking on the Atlantic, both North Atlantic and of course South Atlantic. Africa, we want to improve our position on the flows between Asia and both the US and Europe. So yes, of course, we are very much interested in improving our position, strengthening our leadership, specifically in the long haul markets.
And how valuable to you is your partnership with American Airlines, the North American route? How?
It is extremely valuable, of course, now that we have this antitrust immunity umbrella under which we can operate our joint business agreement. It's going to represent for us and for American Airlines a huge opportunity to recover, to improve our market share, our position, and especially our role in the premium markets in which we are mostly interested.
Just briefly on the short haul market, and it's very competitive in Europe, is that something that you think you're going to avoid, or is that something that you're going to get into? I know EasyJet have been doing a lot of business travel within Europe. Is that something you are thinking about too, or is that something you'll stay away from?
For us, I would say the short and medium haul markets are important, but because they represent feeding traffics for our long haul networks. So that's basically our approach. We are not so much interested in the point-to-point short haul market, but we are interested in how to improve our feeding networks into the long haul markets, and that's something that's going to be subject of our interest, and we are going to try to adapt our model, adapt our networks in order to improve our feeding structures towards the future.
The Japanese earthquake and tsunami, all the unrest in the Middle East, how has that affected your business? Has it had a knock-on effect?
Of course, it has had a significant impact in the first and especially in the second quarter. What we have estimated is that it would have represented a loss of revenues mainly in the area of 60 million euros for the first half of the year, and maybe as a whole it would represent a negative impact in the range of 90 to 100 million euros for the whole of the year. Some of these markets are already recovering. Japanese market is recovering. Some North African, Middle East markets are also recovering. Others remain in some way deeply affected. But as a whole, it still represents, I would say, a minor percentage of our total sales and revenues.
As you mentioned before, the cost of fuel is a problem. Are you going to try and offset that with reducing capacity on your flights? Is that a plan that you might have?
Well, what we basically are going to be monitoring closely is some of the markets in which we're operating in terms of becoming weaker. If that is the case, and if we feel that the appropriate reaction in these weakening markets is about reducing capacity, that's something that we can do because we have the flexibility, and we will do.
And I think just finally I wanted to ask, If you were sat in front of investors now, you had them all there, very briefly, in sort of 10 seconds, if you had to say to them what you're thinking or how the company's doing at the moment, what would you say to them?
I think that I would transmit them a positive message having to do with the way we are positioned in these strategic markets in which we are maintaining leadership. They are growing, premium traffics are growing, and as a whole our group is developing strongly. We are focusing ourselves in implementing our synergy plans, and they are working, and we are confident in being able to achieve our targets. So as a whole, we could say that the implementation, the launching, and these first 6 months of life of IAG project have been a very significant success.
And the future, what does the future hold?
And the future holds a lot of potential, because we are very confident in being able to improve our position in markets that are going to develop strongly and that are going to represent, I would say, huge opportunities for IAG Group and for its companies. And we also envisage that in the future we'll be able to expand our group to develop the synergy platforms that we are now implementing, and that's going to represent a very significant step forward in the development of the whole, I would say, airline business, especially the European airline business.
I just want to ask one last question, sorry. What do you think that you're doing right that perhaps Lufthansa or Air France are not doing as well, because their earnings were sort of less than expected? What do you think you're getting right that they're not?
Sure. I prefer to talk about what we think we are doing well. I'm not so capable of giving an opinion of what others are doing well or wrong. So what we think that we are doing well has to do with the way we have structured our grouping of companies. We think it retains a lot of the values embedded in the previous, I would say, operational companies, and it is capable of bringing, I would say, much more potential values having to do with dealing together with some aspects of our business where we can jointly achieve additional improvements. And that's something that we are already, I would say, realizing, envisaging. We're working now on some specific synergy projects that are creating a lot of value, having to do with common purchasing, having to do with new, I would say, shared service, common platforms for the group, having to do with putting, I would say, our cargo business operating jointly together with putting in the very near future our frequent flyer programs commonly working together. So we feel that we are having a lot of potential opportunities to develop, and this is the way we've shaped our corporation, the way we have structured our group will represent a very attractive proposition for newcomers.